This is the Tally Tales podcast brought to you currently from the Swamp Shack on Lake Munson. Beautiful, beautiful day, beautiful setting. We're so blessed to have this spot. Our video wizard, Neil Anderson, is currently renting the space. And Tally Tales podcast is about Tallahassee and what a unique geosphere that we occupy, that we're fortunate enough to live here. And there's some amazing individuals. There's some unbelievable natural beauty here. And as David Attenborough called it, one of the most unique geospheres in the entire world. When the Appalachians were formed billions of years ago, way before the Rockies, the explosion was so powerful, this very center of the earth fell on what we call the Red Hills. 25 miles north and south, 156 miles east and west, full of red clay and hills. Some call it the toenails of the Appalachian chain. And right below us, it's flat and sandy. Right above us, it's flat and sandy. And Tallahassee, I think Miccosukee, I spoke the time before where I might have attributed it to the Cherokee, but I think it's the Miccosukee Indians that coined the phrase Tallahassee, which means 7 hills. There's some other interesting stuff we'll get to on a podcast dedicated just to Tallahassee and how the name and the city came to be formed. And this is happening because of Bella Oade, my daughter Isabella Alethea Oade, who passed into the great beyond 3.5 years ago. One of the most beautiful, selfless human beings to ever walk the planet. And I realize only the good die young, but it still hurts every day. But Bella was an amazing soul who did everything from jumping off mountains to climbing mountains to singing to dancing to hula hooping to doing poetry to cook, anything you could imagine that was creative. Photography, Bella was not only into, but she was a master of. So she lived a lot in those 24 and a half years. One brief story I'll have to tell you about Bella, since she's the reason this whole thing is happening. And of course, I realized that I was in one of the most unique geospheres and this needed to be done. Somebody needs to gather together as many of the interesting people in Tallahassee that are doing positive things. The podcast is going to be upbeat and focusing on the positive. And if there's anything that isn't positive, which there's a lot of evil out there, a lot of negativity, then we want to provide outlets to help overcome those difficulties and change the direction that certain things are going in. So we plan on having a variety of individuals on the podcast that are some of the most interesting folks around Tallahassee. And by the time this is released, we will have several podcasts out. Dan Kahn, a local wonderful human being, was our number one. He was our number one choice. I told him when I started the podcast, and as humble as he is, he was honored. But it's going to be focusing on not just Tallahassee, but the surrounding area. You know, the Elephant Preserve. There's so many wonderful things in the Tallahassee area. The old Junior Museum, just unbelievable. Just some of the neighborhoods, some of the neighborhood I just recently moved into has a Zen garden that's there for everybody. It's unbelievable. A few nuns picked some of the produce there and got a caretaker there. It's just a wonderful spot. And they were also touched by the fentanyl crisis. The gentleman that did who will be on our podcast, who did the garden, who created it, along with David, a kid that lost his leg to drug abuse, to shooting up an infection. And I met Osvaldo in the neighborhood, who will be on our podcast soon, who's Osvaldo Chapman, also known as Chappie, who just approached me coming out of the Zen garden. I thought it was really interesting. Came up to me, said, "Hey, I recognize you. You're a shaman just like me." And he struck up this conversation, and it was really interesting to me that this happened right here where I was. I met this one of the most incredible human beings. He's an artist, extraordinary proportions, just unbelievable artist. He's got a dog that he got when his daughter died to help him out, and Akasha, the sky dog, who will be on our podcast, probably off and on. She's an amazing creature, formerly known as Peanut, abused for 3 years, but now she's in a wonderful space, and she's done so much for me. And she was born, interestingly enough, at the same time Bella passed into the next big trip. So anyway, so what we're doing here, we've got Neil Anderson is like I said, is our video wizard. He will be doing the post-production work. And you can't, it takes a lot of people to build a wonderful thing, which is the Tally Tales podcast, tallytales.net. You can get all the information at bellaforever.org. Bellaforever.org is the foundation. And what we're doing is reaching out to people, anyone you know that's troubled, anyone that hears this. Everyone knows somebody that's been affected by the opioid crisis, with the pharmaceutical industry being the heinous beings that they are. Not everybody in it, but they're pretty bad situation they got going on. But they get a lot of people addicted to things. And now fentanyl is widespread, and they're putting it in almost every drug there is out there, and it's very dangerous. So anyone that knows anyone that actually wants to change their life, to make a new start, to escape to a new reality, then get in touch with bellaforever.org and just send us an email. I'm Jim at bellaforever.org, and somebody will contact you very quickly and hook you up with a mentor and give you tools if you need them to pursue whatever is in your heart that that you're passionate about, whether it be a chef's job or whether it be an artist's job or whether it be computer skills or mechanic or whatever. So just keep that in mind, bellaforever.org. And once again, I'm Jim Oade. My mom was Santos Oade, born on All Saints Day, a true saint. My dad was Camille Preston Oade, Lieutenant Colonel, Director of Supplies in the Air Force. Here's actually a picture of my old man right here. I don't know if you can see it. I hope so. But anyway, that's old Camille when he was in the military. He was in the Director of Supplies in Casablanca, Morocco, during the Casablanca Massacre of 1957. If you want to learn, research that, it's an interesting, horrible thing that happened. And it was blamed on a captain that was a good friend of my dad's, and he was not at all responsible for it. The response, it was a general. I mean, a general that had made the decision to sacrifice human lives for whatever horrible intention he had. But so at that time, my dad met my mom in Casablanca. She rented him an apartment. He spoke fluent Arabic and English. She spoke fluent Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese, and the very obscure Basque language, which if you're into language, and we'll have a language specialist from FSU on the podcast sometime soon. Basque is one of the three unique languages that are not connected to any other language, very regional. But anyway, they got married in Tangiers. My dad said, the hell with the Air Force if they're going to shame this man and his family for something he didn't do. He tried to stand up, and they told him to sit down. And at that point, he met a beautiful Spanish woman. He's like, I'm out of here. So we grew up poor. He lost every benefit he would have had, and he lost one of his little fingers, like Jerry Garcia, one of my heroes. And it didn't matter. He hit the jackpot. He met Santos, born on All Saints Day, who came from a pueblo of 300 people. She was the oldest of 12 children, and she was a hero when Bella visited Spain and went to Peñaranda de Duero. If you want to look it up, a really interesting town. It's got a castle that predates Roman times that I found a bottle of wine. A friend of mine turned me on to it that actually has, it's called Barco de Piedras, that has the castle in Spain that sat high on the hill. And my mom said nobody ever went up there except for when somebody got married. They'd all go up there, they get drunk, they dance around, and the married couple would stay in the castle, which was said to have some very haunted vibes. And when I was there, my luna de miel, honeymoon, I went in there and had the most amazing feeling when I was in there. I realized that this is where they watched out for barbarians, because it was the highest point anywhere around. And like the shots are interesting enough happening in the background right now. I don't know if you can hear them, but so that's that. And it's a little bit of a distraction there. It got my attention. And it's continuing. Anyway, so that's my mom and dad's story. They got married even though they didn't speak any common language. I didn't learn this out until my dad had passed away, and my mom put her arm around me and said they spoke the language of love. I asked her, "How did you get along?" So anyway, that's the story of where I came from. I was born in Orange Park, Florida. Moved to Thomasville, Georgia, when I was about 5 and a half. And it traumatized me to the point where I wanted to put up blinders. I realized later on I ended up having to wear eyeglasses, and I wore them to the point where the first thing I did every day I woke up was find my glasses, or I couldn't function in the world. I had to find my glasses. And then Lindsay, who actually owns the swamp shack where we're doing this podcast from, was living with me at the time on my farm in Quincy where Bella was born. Gave me a book on my suggestion called Take Off Your Glasses and See, about behavioral optometry. That's when I realized, and then you people's eyesight, we know what modern optometry does, the way they treat it. You end up getting stronger prescriptions and eventually bifocals in most cases. But this behavioral optometry, anyone that's interested in recovering their eyesight, like I said, I couldn't even function without my glasses. I haven't worn glasses since Lindsay gave that to me on my birthday. Well, a few months after that, I finally took them off. Decided I could see clearly without the aid of these optics, because the human brain is a remarkable machine, and the body has amazing abilities to heal itself. And that's one of the things this podcast is going to be focused on: Tallahassee and what's happening in Tallahassee, and the various healers and the way people can heal the trauma. The society is pretty screwed up situation that we've got. There's some wonderful people, but there are a lot of evil folks out there that aim to, they're only in it for the money and for themselves. And Bella was the opposite. I remember her brother Lucas, bringer of light, bringer of knowledge, born on Groundhog Day, which my mother said, he was born on Candlemas. In Europe, they celebrate that as the day where more light comes into the world. Lucas means bringer of light, bringer of knowledge. So we'll see on that one. James Lucas Oade, now a master electrician. He went from sous chef in the best Italian restaurant in town, used to be, now he's become a master electrician. I hope to have Lucas on the podcast sometime soon. I hope to have him on as a sound engineer and a technician guy. So we'll see what happens with Lucas. I'm pretty certain he'll decide to get out of his shell, and but he would tell Bella, "Why are you hanging out with all these trailer park trash and stuff. They just stole the brand new computer your dad bought you. They stole your brand new phone, and well, you know, why are you hanging out over there? And you're having to watch their babies. And Bella looked at him and said, you know, as far as them stealing my phone, they must have needed it worse than I did. You know, that was Bella in a nutshell. At Montessori school, the teacher told me she didn't know what she was going to do when Bella was gone, because she had a condition, a disease, and every time she would come to work where she thought she couldn't get through the day, Bella would instantly recognize it, come up, give her a hug, and she said when she started feeling okay, you know, Bella would let go. And on the campus grounds, she said when anyone got injured, hurt in any way, Bella had two approaches. If she was close to the teacher, she'd run in and let her know. If she wasn't, she would assign a student to run in and tell them to get the teacher and stand there and hold the person and stroke them and, you know, tell them everything's going to be okay. That was Bella's spirit, and that's why, you know, trying my damnedest to keep her love alive, because she was a worthy candidate. She was an amazing person on every level there is. Very, very unique, crazy individual. And we will have podcasts about the crazy stuff Bella has done and the wonderful stuff and all her wonderful friends. So many different people have come to me and told me that one guy was struggling with addiction. He went to St. Pete to get help, and none of his friends came to visit him. And Bella, who didn't have a car, found her way down there to be with the guy. You know, Bella, one of the Bella stories I've got, BellaForever.org, we sell these T-shirts to raise money for the podcast and the foundation and to help the needy. BellaForever.org once again. But the T-shirts the design on it is Bella in a tree blowing bubbles that turn into butterflies, and she could really do that. She climbed trees. She was crazy. And T-shirts all union made because Bella would have demanded that, and they were totally organic dyes and organic cotton. So searched high and low and paid a lot of money to get those, and that's okay because Bella deserves the best. And I won't ramble on too much more about that. Sorry. And where are we going from here? Chaos or community? We hope community. And we hope that the Tallahassee's got a lot of wonderful people. Praises to Jackie Porter, one of our county commissioners, who is just a wonderful, generous, loving human being. Well, I can't say that about all of them because I don't know most of them, and some of them I know and don't have. We want to say only positive things on the podcast, so we'll leave them out of them. And shout out to the Gain Street Pies, wonderful Jeremy, who's also on the county commission, and we hope to get a lot of support from Tallahassee. We plan on focusing on so many of the wonderful, the Lemoyne, the Tallahassee Junior Museum, like I said before, and so many wonderful things that the city is doing, so many things they could do better that we hope that will inspire some individuals to have the ability to affect change. And we're looking for people out there that want to lead nature walks to teach some of these troubled folks and just young kids in general about getting back to Mother Earth, connecting with Gaia, because it seems like too many people are distracted and controlled by their devices, if you will. I've seen people at large tables and not one conversation is going on between the individuals. Each one is in their own world in their phone. That's somewhat disturbing. And that was, I don't know. And there's good. You can use technology for good. AI certainly can be used for good. Shout out to Lex Friedman podcast. If you haven't heard that one, I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorites, as well as Aubrey Marcus. And he and Joe Rogan, of course, they all broadcast Elon Musk out of Austin, Texas. But Lex Friedman is an AI uh, gentleman from MIT and just an amazing human being. And Aubrey Marcus is unbelievable, just a super powerful human. And in fact, our next president, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., announced his presidency on an Aubrey Marcus podcast, because podcasts are definitely the way people are getting information. More people watch Joe Rogan, listen to his podcast, than all the major news networks combined. So that's pretty powerful. And anyway, the Robert Kennedy podcast with Aubrey Marcus. We hope to have Robert Kennedy as well as his wife on the podcast, because his wife Cheryl Hines, who was married to Larry David on television in Curb Your Enthusiasm, one of my favorite shows, the guy that developed Seinfeld, and she went to school at Leon, as well as Buster on Arrested Development, went to school at Leon High, and he was Leon Gray. We hope, who knows, we may be fortunate enough and blessed enough to get both Cheryl and Kevin on the podcast. There are other wonderful humans and famous people from Tallahassee area that we hope to have on the podcast. There's quite a few people, and crazy individuals. Marshall Ledbetter, who took over the town, the capital, for one day by himself. And so we'll have a whole podcast on Marshall Ledbetter and the people that knew him. He made international news here from Tallahassee, and that's another story. So I have Jaron here as well.
Hi, so my name is Jaron, as Jim spoke of, and my connection to Bella is, I guess, like everyone else, it's unique in its own way. That I was a little older than Bella, and I knew that she spent time with my younger siblings, and I would see her mostly in passing, a lot of times going over to visit my friend Jim or out about in Tallahassee. But the one thing that always struck me about Bella was that she always made me feel like I was her friend, and she always had a warm, friendly smile that she would generally have something funny to say and make me laugh. So a lot of times it might be about Jim, something that she would say that was quite amusing. But yeah, she just had like Jim said, she had a really incredible light about her that if you were in her presence, you understood and you felt it, and it was a gift to be in her presence, and that was a really special thing. I didn't get to know her as well as I wish I could have, but I've heard so many stories from people that I know well about how good a friend Bella was, and about how big a heart she had and things she did. And whenever people would tell me stories about Bella, I would believe them, of course, because that sounded like Bella. If it was something where she was helping out when no one else would, or she was being a friend when no one else was. And so Jim just handed me this photo. Let me make sure you can see it here. And it looks like this is Bella, sitting here looking like a flower of the forest on a rock in the river. And she definitely was just a beautiful light that again touched so many people. And I imagine that there's more people that we even realize that Bella touched with her energy and her gift and her light.
That's something she did when she was 6 years old.
And this, I don't know if the camera can see it well enough here, but this is called Moonlit Night, and this is something that Bella did when she was 6 years old.
Artist extraordinaire.
She was, that was something I definitely should mention, is that I have seen many pieces of artwork that Bella has done and they were quite incredible. Not only her skill, but her ability to evoke a feeling that you understood what she was trying to express through her paintings. She was so incredibly gifted. She could, yeah, I was always very just in awe of her talent as an artist. And like I said, I'm sure I only saw a small piece of what she actually did in her spare time, or the art that she probably never showed anyone. It was very telling that I remember, when we celebrated Bella's life and we remembered her in her passing, that so many people from Tallahassee that I knew came out and paid their respects. And in reality, I think Bella probably touched almost all of Tallahassee, and obviously far beyond that. I mean, I heard some of her exploits and when she traveled to Spain. I remember following her and watch on social media and seeing these beautiful photos she would post of herself, these ancient ruins or the seashores and somewhere in Spain. And she looked so free and so happy. And of course, she was over there. I think she was taking care of some young children as a job there while she stayed there. And Bella would certainly be someone that you would want to have an influence on your children, because she would probably teach them how to be themselves and how to have the courage to be unique and authentic, to be who you really truly want to be. And in the world that we live in today, that's something that can be very difficult and takes a lot of courage to do. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things. Like I said, whenever I would see Bella, she would usually give me a hug, make me laugh, and then I would be left with the feeling that she saw who I was and knew that I was trying to grow and improve, but she saw who I was and that she accepted that. And that was just a powerful thing, because when somebody truly sees who you are and they accept you for who you are, it's a really safe place to be able to be. So I just have so much admiration and love and respect for Bella. And she was quite an incredible human being. And like I said, I can only imagine the amount of lives and people that she touched, especially here in Tallahassee. And so just thank you, Bella. Thank you for being here while you were, and wherever you are, I'm sure you're probably taking care of someone as well. So
Thank you, Jared. And by the way, to follow up Jared on Bella, I was in tears listening to what he said, but it's true. I remember Soul Vegetarian Restaurant. When I was in the Square Mug Cafe, shout out to Donna, who's no longer at the Square Mug Cafe. They closed it down. She was helping too many people, but anyway, that's a different story. And the first, in fact, the inspiration, I will go ahead and tell you, for the Bella Forever Foundation was a wonderful artist by the name of Jules Muck Rock. Please visit her website and her Instagram if you want to see some phenomenal stuff. She brought me to tears when Betty White died, with her Betty White with this Betty White smile on her face, and with the Looney Tunes logo around it, and Betty saying, "That's all, folks." And it's just the Grateful Dead hired her to do 5 walls for them on their 50th anniversary tour, and she was on her way from L.A. to Miami to the Art Basel, the largest international arts festival in the world. And so I thought, and my friend Mackenzie, shout out to High Key Studios. It's a hair studio that Mackenzie, who turned me into Rick from Rick and Morty, the hair and everything. She's an amazing individual, very creative, wonderful person. Gave Bella her last haircut. Yeah. She's amazing. It was a great friend of Bella's. But Bella had so many wonderful friends. But the guy, to get back to, I'm very tangential being in the way I talk, but I get on tangents. But the guy that whose parents owned the sole vegetarian restaurant here, and Bella, bless her heart, she used to be their best patron at Sale. Shout out to Sale School, where Bella attended high school. They have this very interesting school, and was happy to have Bella there, and they were blessed to have Bella there. Lucas went there for 1 year, then he went to Godby, chasing after this girl that it wasn't worth chasing after, but he needed to be there. He was a professional. He was on their golf team. He was number 2. Anyway, so that's shout out to Lukey Poo over there. And so this guy, when he learned the square bug that Bella had passed, he was shocked, of course. Gave me a big hug. Tears were in his eyes. And he told me that every time Bella walked into Soul Veggie, the place lit up, and they would all tell each other, "Hey, Bella's here," and they didn't need to because they could feel it even in the kitchen. Same thing with every place she went into. You know, the Bark, where she hung out a lot in her last days after she returned from Spain. You know, this came to me, had to be quarantined during that COVID monstrosity situation, and apparently it's still going on. You still have to wear a mask in some places, even if you're not Zorro. But we'll talk about that later on. So this is a long, drawn-out intro, and we're pretty much winding it up. But the Nefertaris, a shout-out to them, though, even though they're no longer there. We hope to acquire that space with the help of a few good friends. And I don't know if the warehouse has been torn down by the time you hear this, but hoping to save that. Shout out to Max at the Preservation Society, who's been doing a wonderful job trying to keep it together, and Jackie and Jeremy over there at City Hall. And we hope to have all these people on the podcast soon, and maybe we'll get Neil Anderson to actually appear on the podcast. And his sister Sierra, who I met when she was 19 at the warehouse when she first came to Tallahassee, and it's she found the music scene there and blossomed into an amazing individual. That shout out to Sierra. It's fucking awesome. The oldest, I guess, in the group. She was 19 when I met her. And already on the road to mischief. And well, I don't know. She's more of a miscreant than mischievous. But wonderful spirit. She's doing some wonderful things now. And we hope to have her on the podcast. Shout out to the whole Anderson family. Their mom, who knew Bella very well. Bella would go out, and Jaron probably doesn't remember this, but I remember Bella going out to their mom's place out on the lake before, and talking about Wheels of Fire, how it changed your mom's boy at the time life. And Bella was just enamored with Neil's guitar playing, as am I. And a Feeling Arts Collective can tell you the same thing, which today was blown completely apart. So we'll talk about all the future podcasts we're going to do when we actually do them. And this has been a wonderful afternoon, and thanks to everybody that helped make this happen. From Bella to Beba's Blanket, which we'll have an episode on that, which is the last story I will tell is a unbelievable piece of work that my mother did. When she had arthritic hands in her 70s, she made these huge blankets, green and brown, for me, for each one of the 4 kids. Mabel, the oldest, who was born in Spain, when they honeymooned there for a year, and then Douglas, Tirso, Oade, and Gilbert Carlos, who went by Carlos, who went by his middle name, as does Lucas, my son. And she knitted these unbelievable. People that know knitting look at it and could not believe how tight the weave was. And she labored over these for hours on end. And Bella used that blanket whenever things got to where she couldn't face them. You know, anything from the death of her grandmother to the death of a cat, or just some horrible thing mean thing that somebody did to her in school. And at SAS, shout out to SAS, Bella was Peacemaker of the Year 2 years in a row. She was wonderful. We'll talk about the time machine, not the TARDIS, a different time machine that they used at SAS on a future podcast. And man, there's just so much to say when you involve Bella. She knitted also, wonderful. She learned one of her nicknames was Tink from Tinkerbell. She believed in fairies, and fairies would come and leave things. And when Lindsay was living with me on the farm and where Bella was born, and Bella totally was like, yeah, the fairies. She'd tell Lucas, her older brother, and he just like he spoiled and tried to spoil Santa Claus for her, but she never stopped believing in fairies. But she found out that Tink was a term in knitting, which is knit spelled backwards. It means to undo a stitch. Stitch in time. I could tell a great knitting joke, one of the few clean jokes, and I will tell the two Bella jokes. And she told me, she was a little one, have you heard the one about the cloud, Dad? Like, no. She said, doesn't matter, it's over your head anyway. And then my favorite one is, have you heard the one about the bed, Dad? I said, no. She said, that's why it hadn't been made up yet. I said, yeah, just like yours every morning. Anyway, Bella was a remarkable person. Loved in Spain, treated as, couldn't understand why she went to Peñaranda de Duero. They treated her like she was some sort of goddess because of Mima, because of her mom. And Mima's blanket, when we would crawl under there, she asked me to get out Mima's blanket. Well, there'll be a podcast on, and we have Mima's blanket. She'll be with Chesterfield. I'll tell you about that one too. Not the one on King of the Hill. This is a different Chesterfield. But shout out to King of the Hill and Mike Judge. You can't help but shout out to that wonderful guy. And yeah, Bella, we'd get under there, and Bella would be in the state of just anguish, misery. It couldn't understand how the world could be so cruel sometimes. Things she didn't understand, people that got hurt, she felt they got hurt. That because she felt everyone's pain. Very empathetic young girl she was. Amazing. Only the Good Die Young. That song came on YouTube one time. Never even listened to Billy Joel that much. Didn't like him. I love him now, but when I was one of the many mornings I woke up and I didn't think I could go through the day, I popped on the TV, and I didn't even have it on YouTube. I never would have selected any, never played that song. But all of a sudden, Only the Good Die Young came on. Put me in a good mood. Bella visited me as an owl one time after she passed. And she visited me as butterflies, blue butterflies, drinking my tears. One time I was in the same field that the owl came to visit me. And a shout out to Francesca. I don't know if Francesca Hesapes, who was kind of a very dear friend of mine and wasn't a dear friend of Bella's, but that's okay. They had some situations, but she gave me this owl pendant that I wear, and I never have worn jewelry. But Francesca gave it to me. I thought, I don't wear jewelry. I put it in Bella's old room that she stayed in. And Lucas opened the door finally after a year or so. And because I couldn't. And I found this piece in there. But apparently I had gone in, and I thought it was Bella's. I'd gone in and put it in the room, and then I found it thinking it was hers, and I wore it one night. I was going to Siam Sushi. Shout out to Annie, the fabulous Annie Warrenton Kamsi, who will be on the podcast, who's the glue that holds the Siam sushi together. And Francesca at the time was one of the managers, moved on to better things. But she was working that night, and I came in, and she said, "Oh, it showed her the pennant." I said, "Yeah, because Al was Bella's spirit animal. That's why I have it on." She said, "Oh, I knew that." She said, "Where'd you get it?" And at the time, I thought it was Bella's. And then I told her, "Oh, you gave it to me. Don't you remember?" And she was like, "Yeah, you just now remembered." It was true. Francesca's always right. And that's it, man. I don't have anything else to say, but stay tuned to Tally Tales and tallytales.net. As many individuals that hear this that want to help with the project and want to devote their time and sharpen and hone their skills, we have some wonderful people they could mentor under, because I have enough energy to do this podcast 8 hours every day. And I know people might not have that much time to listen, but we're going to try to condense it into shorter bits. We've got a shout out to Jess, who will be our social media goddess, I called her. She thought that was a little too high praise, but we'll call her our social media genius. How's that? And shout out to Jess, and who also sat in with Lipstick Killer at Railroad Square. So I said I was going to tell one more story, and I pretty much fabricated the truth a little bit. So this is the end of it. Tallytales.net. We love everybody that's listening to this, as Bella did. So tell a lot of Bella stories in the future. All right, stay tuned. Love y'all. Peace.